Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Lost One podcast. Today, I've got a very special guest with me. I've got TechUnicorn11. How you doing, Tech?
I'm doing good. Can't
Well,
complain.
I'm happy to hear that. Thanks so much for sitting down and recording. This is my very first time interviewing somebody, so I hope.
And from the other side of the world, so you're doing well.
Yeah, technically, it's also my first international interview too, so that's kind of cool. Um, But for those who are not familiar, Tech Unicorn is someone who is I consider a very good friend of mine in the streaming community, and also was the very first person to volunteer to mod for me, and then actually show up to do the job. So, Tech, thank you very much for that. And yeah, I don't really have much of a format, so why don't we just dive in? So, Tech, you also stream on Twitch just like I do. What got you started? What made you want to start streaming?
Well, I used to occasionally stream through the Xbox Mixer streaming stuff ages ago. And then when I went to, kind of go and do that again, turns out Mixer no longer exists. Um, but I started watching Twitch with a friend when I was moving house last year properly. I had an account for something, I can't even remember what for, but I started watching properly. And then when I moved into this place, I actually started streaming purely because Mixer wasn't there anymore, and I wanted to stream from my Xbox. My first ever stream was from my Xbox direct to Twitch with no other software. That's pretty much how I streamed for the first few weeks, I think.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I like playing games and I wanted to share it with people, so
Hey,
happy.
that's all it takes, right? But
Pretty much, yeah.
that's pretty cool. I actually didn't know that. So, I think by the time we really got to know each other, I think you had already switched over to your I don't want to say it's your current setup, but what we're more familiar with now where you're playing on PC, you have a webcam, we see all of your cats and all your fosters.
Yeah, I started using my computer once I got it all set up and my internet running properly here. Um, about a month in, I think. Um, yeah, it wouldn't have been too long after I started streaming.
Yeah, because I feel we kind of met about a little over a year ago, I think, at this point. Um, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, we first met, I want to say it was in Lexi's channel. Was that right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so Lexi is unfortunately no longer streaming, at least not that I'm aware of. But Lexi built a really close knit community, and we I think met when the first time I remember really interacting with you was being blown away by your skill in Words with Friends, because Lexi would often do community night, and Words with Friends was one of them, and it was you and Zayjuto were like the two who literally like dragged the rest of us across the finish line, like kicking and screaming towards once it got past I want to say like level 15 in Words with Friends.
I
And
like puzzles.
yeah. And when I eventually started doing community nights, I think you kind of started visiting when I was doing Words with Friends.
Yeah, in
And
between in between work stuff, yeah.
yeah. And once again, the same two people, you and Zayjuto, would basically just like hard carry me and everyone else through the later stages. I think we got to like level 30 at one point because with Words with Friends, you're only able to put one word in and then you're locked until the next round. But you and Seijuto would just be like so on top of unscrambling these words that you would be listing them off in chat for the rest of us to just kind of like copy and get points off of.
I mean, what's the point in trying to get as high as you can if other people are struggling? You got to give them an option.
Yeah, well,
If
yeah,
you can't put the words in, here, have some words.
yeah,
Go for it.
absolutely. But yeah, so we met through there, and I think we've since we have a lot of the same very similar communities, right? We're both part of the Puma channel culture. We're both members of each other's communities. I believe Kitty is another one. Lexi and before she stopped streaming, and then of course Tuba is another big one. So
We're also both in Athena's.
oh, that's right. We're also both in Athena's, yeah. So
Yep.
but yeah, so we've kind of I think that's kind of where we got to really start knowing each other, and then I think really the way you became one of my mods was I initially had three. It was Grim, it was Haseo, and it was Samurai. And unfortunately, they just due to scheduling or whatever, and I give them so much crap about this, but like trust me, it's all good. They were never there. So it was just me and Nightbot, and I think I got hit with like some spam, and you happened to be in the chat at the time, and you're like, "Do you want me to mod for you?" And I'm like, "Yes, please." And you've been modding for me ever since, and again, it's been awesome, getting to know you.
It's been it's been good just being able to sit there and help out even with the tiny little things like getting rid of the odd bot here and there. I mean, nobody wants bots in their channel. They don't do much anyway.
Yeah. Well, especially the ones that are like in 11,000 channels at the same
Yep.
time.
Yep. Yep.
So,
They're painful. They're everywhere.
but yeah, so that's kind of how we got to know each other a bit, and obviously I think we've expanded. We've been kind of building up on our friendship. You've been joining me recently for our raft streams on Tuesdays, along with Fish Hat and Haseo, and it's been great having you. Honestly, it's been wonderful to get to know you, and obviously you also are big. I might have mentioned this in passing, but you're very involved with fostering kittens and cats, right?
Yes, at the moment I've got two adult females. One is Sabrina. She's a black cat. Most people don't go for the black cats, and it's really sad. They're
Yeah.
just as loving as all the other cats, but people don't look at them. But you met Varna just before. She's a really affectionate tabby.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I've got four of my own. But normally I have kittens around as well. But I'm taking a break from kittens at the moment.
Yeah.
Because they can be a bit of a handful.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Clawing on stuff and just being cute and adorable and demanding.
Yes, that is true, and Drax still does that now.
Yeah. Well, Drax is your newest cat, right?
He's my first foster fail, so he's the first kitten that I kept from a foster. And he's my youngest cat that I actually physically have out of my four.
Yeah. He's so Tech often I often ask Tech to send me pictures of her cats and all the fosters, and so I can fawn over them from half a world away. But
Yeah, they're cute and they're good fun though.
yeah, absolutely. And it's really cool because I believe you're also involved. Part of the foster is you put them over to a cat cafe, right, for adoption when time comes up. Is that how the process works? Or if not, can you please fill me in on that?
So the actual animal rescue owns the cat cafe. It's Grounded Paws Animal Rescue here in Victoria. They have the cat cafe, which has a cat lounge in the back. So there's cat lounges everywhere, but we're a cat lounge where you can actually adopt the cats on the premises. A lot of cat cafes, you can come and sit with the cats, but you can't actually take them home, which is not fair on the cats, because why would you want to get to know a cat that you may never see?
Yeah.
You may never be able to take home. You might fall in love with a cat that you can't have. But these guys come from the animal rescue who basically socialize with other animals and people and get some space and some quiet, some place, somewhere to go where they can just grow up and get healthy if need be. Some of them have come from bad situations. They just need love, really.
Mm-hmm.
Like Varna came on Sunday because she was at the cat cafe, but she needed to be somewhere where she could have peace and quiet because she was struggling to socialize with the other animals and the people. since she came here, she's been all over me. She's best friends with Drax now. They chase each other up and down the hallway at random times of the day. And she doesn't hide anymore. So it's things like that. And with the young kittens like Drax's litter, they came in at 4 or 5 weeks old. And they needed somewhere to go. So they came here. They were literally in the corner here where my kitten cages are. And they just got the chance to grow up. And then they went to the cat cafe when they were old enough and desexed and ready to be adopted.
Yeah.
And then from there, it's just a case of hoping that the right family finds them or being able to, suggest them to the right family.
That's so awesome. And, again, I know we talk about this a lot on stream, but like it's something, for me that, when I found out how involved you were with cats, it was, I mean, we've talked, Tanner is my boy. He's my life. He was also adopted from a bad situation as a rescue. So, personally for me, it's a really big deal. I wouldn't call myself like a huge animal rights activist, but there really is no love, at least no love that I found anyway in my life, quite like the love of a pet. And whether it's a dog or cats, because they do love unconditionally. They do it in very different ways oftentimes, but it really is unconditional love. So
yeah, very different ways. My oldest doesn't like the other cats, but she loves a cuddle and a scratch from me.
mm-hmm.
My second oldest is a big pain in the ass. He's a lovable pain in the ass, and he is the boss. And my third oldest, Ginger Nut, is kind of just the smoochy teenager who doesn't want anything to do with you until he wants something from you.
Sounds about right, yeah.
But he loves to cuddle up on the bed and the couch. And then you got Drax, who just loves everything.
Yeah.
Very different personalities.
Yeah, 4 very different personalities for 4 very different cats.
Yep, and they can all sleep in bed with me, and I don't care.
Yeah, that's awesome. And again, I'm just so happy they have such a good home with you, and I can't really say enough that how awesome it is that you are fostering. I've often said on stream that I don't think I could do it because I think I would get way too attached. So, it really does take a special type of person to be able to foster and to help these cats out the way that you do. So, I don't want to sound like I'm doing too much ass kissing, but the truth is that this is a really awesome thing for me, and it's something that like I wish that I could do, but I know I couldn't.
A lot of people say that. I find the hardest part though is watching them go to their homes at the end of it. It's not the giving up because you know that you're only taking care of them until their real families are ready for them.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the watching them go to their real families that kind of tears you up more than anything.
Yeah, I can only imagine. With Tanner, he's someone who I don't know if I've really shared the story before, but last was it last year? I think it was. Yeah, last year, he had a pretty big health scare, and I honestly thought I was going to lose him for a little while. It was a very tough time, and he pulled through. as we all know, he's still here. But that's kind of like my biggest fear, and that's the biggest reason why like I don't know if I would necessarily be good for fostering is because I do get really attached, and letting them go, even knowing that they're going to a good home, I just feel I would miss them too much.
Yeah, you lose a piece of your heart with every one of them.
Yeah.
But you know that they're healthy, you know that they're okay, and you've done the best you can for them. But it is hard for a lot of people to do that. So a lot of people don't foster because they know they can't. But there might come a time where you might be ready to do something like that. You never know.
Yeah, that is true. I've said this before, but like if you had talked to me even like 2 years ago, I don't think I would have ever been streaming, let alone hosting a podcast and interviewing somebody from the other side of the world. So, you just never know where life takes you, and but it is really cool when you see good done in the world, because I think this is the case everywhere, right? There could always be more kindness, and especially for such wonderful animals like dogs and cats or pets in general, who are capable of loving unconditionally. Um, I,
Yeah. And they don't understand what's happening. They don't know the difference between what one person says and another person says. All they care about is they want love. They want their family, and when their families give them up, they don't have an option.
yeah, one of the most common misconceptions, at least with dogs, is that dogs that are given up have a hard time forming bonds with their new family. And every study that I read is actually the opposite, is that a dog who is abandoned will love even more with the family that comes to him. And I imagine cats are pretty similar. Because once you're introduced to that sense of like loss, they want to find someone to love them and to that they can love too. So,
Yeah, yeah. It's I think and each animal is different. It just depends on the situation they come from, but
mhm.
they tend to throw everything into that next relationship because they don't want that to be their their next step to another relationship. They want that to be their last one.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I can just tell you, Tanner is very affectionate with me. He follows me pretty much everywhere. He hates it if I even leave. Like I can go just outside the house. I don't even leave the property. But
Yep.
if he can't follow me, he gets upset. And when I come back, he acts like he hasn't seen me in like a year. So, and he's turning 8, so he's an older dog, but he wouldn't know when I come home sometimes. But
Yeah. They have a lot of love to give, and they just want you to be. They just want you to take it. They'll give you everything.
yeah,
Literally
absolutely, absolutely. Aren't pets the greatest?
everything.
Like, I think you and I are both kind of in agreement here. And if I'm speaking for you, I apologize, but I almost certainly prefer the company of animals over people. Like generally speaking.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I leave my house maybe once, twice a week. So
Yeah, I actually just left to go like into the next town over for the first time in like since the pandemic. Like I haven't been gone that far since like the pandemic started. So
yeah, I leave the house to go to the cat cafe where there are more cats.
hey, nothing wrong with that. I mean, cats are good people.
Yes, they are. They are.
And so speaking of good people, we have I think been very fortunate to we kind of gave a bit of a shout out to some of our fellow streamers, other community members, but we have kind of built this really close knit kind of group where a lot of us are in each other's chats and supporting each other and giving us shout outs. And it's kind of fun because I due to the time difference it's often hard for me to stop by your streams. And when I'm streaming it's normally the middle of your workday. But the one thing that both of us I think have really had in common is we both love Minecraft. And you in particular, like where I kind of have a little bit like set in my way where I do the same build like every time I'm in it, maybe a different design but it's the same thing. You have this like list of like projects that you work on, right? And some of them are insanely like huge. So can you tell me a little bit about like how you kind of got started in Minecraft and like where this project list that you've built got started?
Tell you exactly how I got started. Um, my niece wanted to play Minecraft. I had it on my Xbox, but I'd never really played it because I had no real reason to at the time. And she was regularly staying over school holidays and New Year's Eve and things like that. And she asked if we could play Minecraft. So we jumped in Minecraft. She was on one computer, I was on the other. And we decided to build a house and do other things randomly in a pre built world. And then we decided we were going to build this really long stone walkway. And by really long, I mean it is the straightest piece of stone you could ever think to see in a Minecraft world. And it goes for an hour and a half at full pace running
Wow, that is a
without, without any speed mods. And there are torches along the entire thing. And at random points, there are whole bunches of chickens floating around underneath it and on top of it because she decided to spawn chickens everywhere.
I mean, I can't blame her. Chickens are great.
Yeah, yeah. But that was that was the first time. I think we spent most of the night on that. We didn't go to bed until well after 1 o'clock in the morning.
Oh wow.
Um, but after that, it was just her and I playing together. And not that long ago, I decided I was going to start doing pixel art. So I jumped in and started doing that just in a blank, flat world. I've got all sorts of pixel arts. My very first pixel art was a Stitch playing a guitar,
Oh, there you
Hawaiian shirt. And it kind of snowballed from there. And I was just doing all these pixel arts in the one world. And then I decided, you know what? I'm going to build a pirate ship. So I found a pirate ship blueprint somewhere on Google, went and opened up a new world with water and everything. And it kind of went from that to another ship, to another ship, to another ship. We ended up with the Titanic. That was 10 streams worth of me building.
Wow.
Um, it's a big ship. We
Yeah.
nicknamed it the HMAS Buttercup or the Titanic, whichever way you look at it. It's not finished yet, though.
Still work in progress.
I haven't done the inside, and there's a rather large hole on the front left side where I accidentally cleared out space when I was trying to empty out the water inside it.
Oh yeah, yeah.
My own fault. So it's just sitting there with a hole in the side, blocked up with sand, and it's like this is in the wrong side of the Titanic to be believable. So I'm just gonna eventually fill it in.
Yeah. I mean, I was.
And sorry.
Oh no, I was just gonna say that having a giant hole in it is kind of appropriate for a ship named the Titanic. Unfortunately.
Yeah, it's just in the wrong spot.
Yeah.
It needed to be on the other side, a little further back, not in
Yeah.
the front left corner. But
Well.
that was my first really big build. That one was on purpose. I watched a YouTube video while I was doing it. That one was YouTube. Some guy did 3 videos, and it was like 9 hours worth of videos. And
Oh
I
wow.
all 3 videos over 10 streams. And I had to go back and forth a few times, but that was my own fault. And then I found another website with actual blueprints for various ships because we were looking for a specific Star Wars ship. And I found all these blueprints, and I'm like, I like this one, I like this one, I like this one. So I downloaded them all and didn't rename them. So they were just random numbers, and I couldn't remember what they were just by opening up the blueprints.
Oh no.
Hence how I got blind builds. Because I have no idea what these are. So everybody was just picking a random number between 1 and whatever number I had that hadn't been claimed. And we started doing that. And the first one was actually the original Starship Enterprise.
Oh wow.
First pick.
That...
that one took quite some time too.
You went from the Titanic to the Starship Enterprise?
Yeah.
That's wow. That is pretty awesome. Also, I can imagine super time consuming because, like you said, those are not small builds, like at all.
No, there was a couple of others in between. Like there's a big Starship Carrier, like it's this big grey thing.
Uh-huh.
That one I actually accidentally spent 16 hours doing on stream one night because I lost track of time. I just kept going and going and going. Turned out it was on for 16 hours. I'm like, okay, I got it 3/4 done.
Yeah.
It just went from there. And then your pick was... I can't even remember what that one was.
It was very big. I remember that.
It's because the base of the blueprint is like 200 blocks by 300 blocks or something.
Yeah.
But the actual ship, you only need like this tiny little space for the start of it where the steps go up to get to the actual ship. You don't need about 40 of those 100 layers.
Yeah.
Like, dudes, you made me clear out all this space so I could go up in a line.
Yeah.
And build it.
Sounds about right. I mean, you know me, I always have to make things more difficult, so my pick apparently did too.
Yeah, but now you got your own starship, so...
Yeah, I'll take it, you know? I mean... Yeah, maybe I should, maybe, you know, for the little starship that I have at my starting screen, maybe I should replace the design with the one I picked out for you. Maybe that's a thought.
Well, I can get a top-down view if you want.
Oh, that would be great. I would love that, because, yeah, I hand drew this one, and you know I did like the front, the side, and the bottom, but I gotta be honest, like, I've been told I'm good at art, but I look at it, I'm like, this is a piece of shit.
I can't draw for shit, so don't ask me.
Oh, at least your stick figures don't commit suicide. I had a former friend of mine who used to say that.
I don't know. I've never had anybody tell me that, so who knows?
Well,
Who
it,
knows? But yeah.
either way though, it's pretty crazy. Like these blind builds, and I'll never forget. You just kind of asked a bunch of us in my chat like to pick a number, and we were all like, okay. Yeah. We had no idea what it was for. Then you're like, oh, it's blind Minecraft builds. I'm like, what? You're doing blind Minecraft builds? So anyway, if you haven't gotten the chance, I'm going to be chilling for Tech a lot during the stream, but like, please go check out Tech stream. It's TechUnicorn11 on Twitch.tv. Tech is very, very chill, as you can tell. I'm sure by now. But Minecraft, good music, good vibes, and a really wonderful community. One of the things Tech, just for me, what I really like is that you've described it as kind of like this, family that you choose, and that's a literary device that I've always really related to. So you welcoming me into this family it really did mean a lot, and it's something that I think the world needs more of. Is you choose people who are good to you and who are share your values, and who don't basically aren't toxic, right? um, and I think that's something that your community is very, very amazing for.
What we can. And I try and bring them to you occasionally. Every now and then it'll be, hey guys, over here.
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate. I do the same thing. Obviously I know our stream times don't overlap a lot, but I think Fridays is kind of the day. Like usually when I wrap up, you're still going, so I try to drop you a raid on Fridays. Saturday for you, I think, but it's
Yeah.
just.
I'll be doing more Saturday streams with hockey finishing up, so I'll actually be starting doing it again.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, so I guess the other thing is I want to talk a little bit about your channel too, because you have a very interesting name for your followers and for your for your subscribers. Do you want to elaborate on that a little bit?
Well, I have unicorns and stalkers.
Yes. So
My head stalker is my main mod, Kirsty. She has her own little command. It plays plays a couple of videos actually. We recently updated her videos because we found a different video, different image, and we're going to put this one. But my most of my VIPs and mods are stalkers and lackeys and things like that. But my followers are new unicorns because everybody's got to join the unicorn squad.
yes.
And everybody's got to be unique, like a unicorn. And as far as I'm concerned, unicorns can be in the herd, but they don't have to hang around. But stalkers, I expect to be there all the time, so they're my subscribers.
I love it, but it's just I'll never forget the first time I saw, because I think on one of your layouts you have unicorns and then stalkers, and immediately when I saw stalker, I couldn't help but laugh, because I'm like, it is such a wonderful but creepy name for your subscribers. But if you kind of think about it though, like subscriptions on Twitch, you have to pay to avoid ads. So you're kind of paying for direct access to a streamer, which a little creepy. So it fit so perfectly for me, and I was like, man, how come I didn't think of that?
You got to be quick. But yes, no, I figure if they're paying to come and see me, then they're stalking me because they want to come see me.
Yeah.
I may not know they're there all the time, but they're there.
They're there, yeah.
Stalking me.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm stalking you, and as I've said, I'm almost never actively there, but I'm there.
It's okay.
But yeah, and with since you mentioned Kirsty, I just have to bring this up. Pretty much every time you two run into each other in chat, you exclaim in all caps, "Stalker!"
That's partly where it all came from.
Okay. I was
She told me
curious.
she was stalking me one day, so
Why,
that,
why,
that's where it went.
why not take it and run with it, right?
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Exactly. And now lately it's been Hello Sweetie.
Oh, man, that's getting a bit more affectionate. I mean, you got past kind of the initial like stalker vibe, and
We went stalker to River Song. We're doing well.
yeah, hey, I'm not gonna judge, but either way, Kirsty is wonderful, and I'm not surprised. But Kirsty was one of members of your community who you introduced to mine. And I've tried to bring some people over. I know Haseo often tells me that he'll have my stream like on in the background, and then he'll just suddenly find himself in tech stream.
Raid hopping.
Yeah,
Love it.
yeah. Well, and I love Haseo, but attention to detail is not necessarily his strongest trait. Um, he's a great man, but yeah, little to be desired in the attention to detail sometimes. So yeah, he won't be paying attention. He'll just suddenly find himself in your in your channel. But he loves hanging out. He loves watching your Minecraft builds. So
There are worse places to be.
absolutely, 100%. Um, so I guess the next kind of thing I wanted to ask you about was how did you get introduced to like Lexi's channel? I know for me I found her through Tuba actually was the one who introduced me because Tuba came in from a Wubby raid in a hang time and just bombed the living shit out of hang time with generosity. And so, we found out that Lexi was streaming through him and that's how I stumbled on, but I never really knew how you kind of got introduced to that circle.
I may or may not have stumbled into a Poop Witch channel about 14 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of went from there because I met Lexi in there.
Oh,
And
okay.
then I followed her at some point, and she started when she was streaming. It was like 6 a.m. starts and 5 a.m. starts for me. And then I started getting up early to watch her. I think the first ever stream I actually rocked up to in her channel was a Zillow house hunting stream.
Oh, I remember when she started doing that. Yeah.
Yeah, and it kind of went from there, and I was pretty much there all the time. And then I met Tuba through Lexi from one of her raids because he'd not long started streaming after that, and it kind of all snowballed from there.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of what happened with me is most of the people in my community, at least a lot of the regulars are from hang time. Um, you're actually one of the few people who come in regularly that was not originally part of that kind of community. So, but we overlapped as we talked about in Lexi's and those Zilla streams where she would just basically log on and look at houses for like 3 to 4 hours and the chat would comment and like what do they like, what do they don't. It was very chat interactive. uh, and Lexi loved it, so it was one of those things where and it just kind of became a regular thing for a while there.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, and as opposed to Lexi's streams were always very mellow, which I think like that's something that you and I have in common with her is a lot of people on Twitch, they want to turn up the volume, they want to get loud. I don't really feel that you and myself, and definitely not Lexi, were like that. Um, which I guess kind of
No.
kind of makes us a little bit of an anomaly on Twitch in a way.
Yeah, I stumble into streams occasionally where people are over the top chaotic, and I can't do it.
Yeah.
I can't sit there and watch it. I can't sit there and listen. Um, I'm not that kind of person. I can't be chaotic like that. Not even in real life. If I'm down the street with somebody that I know really, really well and I'm being silly, I won't even get close to that chaotic. I don't know how people can stream. But I mean, if it gets some of them viewers and followers and all sorts of things, then it's stick with what you know, but I'm just not that kind of person. I can't go and interact with that because do that. It's not something I can deal with.
Yeah,
I prefer calm and cozy, to be honest.
yeah, I'm kind of the same way, which is funny because like anyone who knows hang time, like they can get insane sometimes. But, generally speaking, it's mostly just like, excited, shouting there. So I guess that's kind of where I draw the line a little bit, but for the most part, I'm with you. I'm typically more relaxed, and I don't like, even you've seen like even my energy level, like even when I get excited, it's not like super over the top. I can get
It's
loud
like,
and
yeah,
yeah, exactly. Like we're fairly mellow, and I think that's a big part of the reason why we get along so well, and why our our personalities mesh, I think, as well as they do. Because both of us are just kind of like, hey, let's just come in, let's unwind, let's chill, and let's have a good time.
pretty
Yeah,
much. I mean, people have got to also remember that we've got day jobs.
yeah,
A lot of streamers don't, so they've got to keep people interested all the time because it's their full time thing. We've got day jobs. We stream after our day job. Um, we don't necessarily want to be crazy and chaotic and using up all that extra energy.
yeah,
It's to keep people entertained.
yeah,
I'm concerned if people want to be in my streams, they'll be there. Some of them don't come in for a few weeks and then they come in for a week straight, and it's like, cool, good to see you. Thanks for, you know. But I'm not fussed over that sort of thing. I'm just there to play games and have fun, and if people want to come and say hello and join me, then I'll be there to say hello and join them.
yeah. You really do have like I think one of the best attitudes on Twitch, and I don't say that because you mod for me. I really do mean that. Like you said, you do it, I think, for all the right reasons. I've made no secret that my goal eventually, and part of why I started this podcast, was to help bringing stuff in so I can eventually go to full time. But you're I really really appreciate and respect your attitude and your outlook, because being selfish, for me, is that if I have kind of an idea or if I'm struggling with something, I always feel like you bring a very measured perspective, and it's one that I value very highly. It's like, okay, cool, I can, say whatever, like if I'm struggling with this or I'm not feeling this, and you can come in and kind of go, okay, well, what if you do it this way? Or like, okay, that's fine, but can you, do it this way, or whatever, right? And it's nice because you again remind me, it's like, just come in, do your thing, and what happens happens.
I'm very good at seeing the other side of it and being able to put it into perspective. You're not the first person that's told me that lately. But yeah, I'm very good at that because I can usually see all sides and go, I can see where you're coming from, but what about this?
Yeah, and that's another thing too, is like, you mentioned day jobs. So part of like what I do is I program, so I work with a team, and I'm now one of the I'm the second most experienced member on this development team I work on now, and that includes both of my bosses, my partner, and well, two of my partners actually, and then there's the person ahead of me has twice as much experience as I do. But one of the things too is what I like about your approach is something that I've kind of been applying in at my professional life, is instead of just saying, like, you should do this, or, you need to do this, right? Where it's more like a command, you make it more like a suggestion. And it's kind of like, what if we did it this way? What if we try it here? And that's something that I think you do extremely well. It's again, I think you're a very valued member in pretty much every community we've listed off. Tubas in Vin and Pumas and Kitties and mine. It's in Athena's, and I think a lot of that has to do with you. You do have a very measured and diplomatic way of putting things. Um, And that's just something for me, again, was when you volunteered to be my mod, I'm like, absolutely, you're exactly the type of person that I want my community to be like. Like, you are exactly the type of person I want to be, an example in my community for.
It's along the same lines of how I got my current job. I literally turned around to this person that I was doing a nutrition program with, so nutrition and training program, and when there's a lot of people in your program asking the same questions around how do I use this? Why not start a tech support channel? She's like, brilliant idea. You're in charge.
That's fantastic.
And 12 months later, I got a full time job out of it.
There you go. I mean, wow, I did not know that, so that's brand new to me.
Yeah,
But
pretty much it. Yeah.
that's awesome.
Yeah, as far as as my response to her was literally quoting Robots, the movie, see a need, fill a need.
I mean, that's true. The line I remember from Robots, and this I think will reflect way more on me, is, "I know this town like the back of my hand. Hey, that's new." And boom, gets eliminated.
Pretty much, yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
see a need, fill a need. I mean, that's, I think, as far as professional circles, I mean, that's about the way to go. But yeah, that's really cool. So you literally just got your job because you were like, well, you're getting all these questions. How about you try this?
Pretty much.
That's
Pretty much.
that's incredible. And you're still there. I take it, still working for this tech support. And
Yeah.
well, how are you liking it? How is it treating you?
Well, I've gone from just helping with general troubleshooting, which most people would know if they actually used Google. Um, Half the time my answers are, "Have you actually Googled the answer?"
Yeah.
But now I've gone from that to I was doing onboarding calls when I officially started actually on the payroll with new clients and various other things. And now I help. I have I taught myself to use Zapier. I am now the Zapier ninja. Um, I've automated probably at least 75% of our admin tasks through Zapier because I'm like, we can do this. I'm
Yeah.
going to show you how to do this. Compressed I've compressed all of our forms into basically a handful. So one of our big forms is now just one form with multiple options because I can automate that to go to all the right places.
Yeah.
Um, I do video editing. I do snippets for the boss's podcast. I edit the audio tracks for the podcast and upload them and all of that. I deal with a lot of payment things. I deal with directly with clients, all sorts of things. I answer customer emails. Yesterday, I was covering the admin person's job of setting up clients at the same time while I was doing Instagram reels. So it keeps me going.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds to me like you're a unicorn of all trades.
Pretty much. And the my bosses have worked out the best way to ask me to try something or to get to do a new task. It's not can you do this? It's if we want to do this, how can we do it? Because
Yeah.
what that does is it goes, well, oh, that's a good question.
Yeah.
How could we do that? Not, I want you to do this. I don't want to do that.
Yeah. That
Give me
that
an option and let me work out the ways to do it and see if it's possible. Let me come back to you. And if it's possible, I'll do it.
Yeah, I can tell you in my experience in development is it's oftentimes I want to do this and it's like, well, have you put any thought into how you're going to get there? Like, I know this is your, you want to get to point B, but it mo I guarantee you, like, unless you're a software expert and you know the everything you're working with inside and out, you need to find out if you can even do what you want to do and if it's going to be worth the time and effort. Because I can tell you from my experience, it's like if you start at the end, it's like that's great where you want to know where you're going, but if that's your expectation and that's your standard, well, you're overlooking a lot of factors. And from behind the scenes, I can just tell you, like, from a development perspective, it's like you could be limited by software, by your security systems, by your budget. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And it's like, how much money do you want to invest in this? And because you have to have that period of discovery, and for a developer, you're going to be paying, pretty good money for them to experiment with something. So I always tell, clients, and I don't work with clients anymore, but I used to tell my clients, I'm like, hey, you know, don't get your heart set on something, because have a budget in mind and have an end goal, but realize that, you know, we have to work with your budget.
And
And
realize that what you may want may not be achievable.
yeah, and I found, at least with, because I used to do, in development, I used to do web applications, so I'd build, full stack websites. And, I found most of what people wanted was possible, but I'll never forget, like, one example is they didn't understand the limitations of a database, of different database types. So they had us build out this whole custom database for them with specific types, and then they would give us like data that had more characters than the data type would allow. And so then they would have to pay us again to go in and, you know, change up the database. And as you can imagine, they weren't happy with having to pay us again. But we told them, we're like, when you want to fit text on a screen, we're expecting like a paragraph, not like 6 pages. But yeah, so it's interesting. The program you mentioned that you self taught, is it like an automation software? I can't say I'm super familiar with it.
So Zapier is an online automation system. So
Okay.
it connects to a whole bunch of different applications, websites, various things. So like you can link up, like, so when somebody sends a message in a public channel, you can get notified through many other places. We've got it set up so basically people sign up. All the information goes to a sheet. All their information goes to Trello, all in the same Zap. It'll
Got it.
send a message to Slack. It'll do all this stuff, even the simple things like assigning a coach to a person. If we just put a simple label on their card in Trello, it'll do all of this extra stuff on top that saves our admin having to go and manually do it. All
Awesome.
they have to do in the end is just go into their channel, send them an invitation, and it's done.
Yeah.
Because it's all been done based on that bit of information.
Yeah, so you have like automated presets, I imagine. So, and it's triggered by like keywords or data and
Yeah.
different, and basically it's like, it's almost like a GPS, but for those that are not super tech savvy who are listening, where essentially you enter in your destination and it tells you the fastest route, and depending on, you know if you want to hit like, oh, what's the fastest like route via bike or by public transit or, car, then there you go. It will adjust your course. So kind of like that.
Yeah, something like that. Like I said, the coaches one is the best example
Mm-hmm.
because each client gets assigned a specific person, and each person has a label. So it we've got count. I've currently got like 16, maybe 17 or 18 Slack workspaces at the moment
Oh wow.
that I'm in all of.
Yeah.
And it's a case of how can we automate channel setup and all of that sort of stuff and getting the coaches all into the right place. Because we have a different workspace for each coach, how do you identify which person is going into that workspace and get it into that workspace?
Yeah.
And it's just a simple case of being able to get that directional path to the right place. So
Yeah.
it is like a GPS. The label is the destination. We want the channel in that coach's space.
Yeah.
And the direction is the path. And then again, you've got basically you're an electric car with its own directional guidance. We get you there. You just finish the last bit.
Yep. So once you get there, then it's on you. We'll get you to the right spot, but then you have to take it from there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's it. It's it's the easiest analogy you could probably get. Is that? But it saves us a lot of time and setup.
Oh yeah.
And our admin Rio, it used to be a 2-person job getting all of this set up, and then she became the only admin. And then it's like, well, all of this stuff is being added to this automation system. I'm going to try and save you some time.
Yeah.
Every time I go, hey Rio, I'm just making this a little bit easier for you. She's like, brilliant, because now she can focus on the little things that might have gotten left behind.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny you're talking about automation because I just had to do my very first ever presentation in front of the executive team where I had to present Microsoft Power Automate, which is Microsoft's automation software, and it's going to be launching with Windows 11. It's going to be bundled. So my new manager was like, "Hey, do you want to check this out? Because I work for a credit union, so with finances, there's all sorts of laws and documentation and requirements that we need to have." And it's like, well, if we had one system that came with every operating system that we were planning on using, and we could just literally write up jobs to run it automatically to, SFTP or, access online reports and download them or whatever it might be, this could be big. So we made the presentation, but yeah, automation, it's if done right and if done well, is a huge time saver. But of course, if you mess up, then you've got this giant mess you need to clean up. So it's really important when you're automating to have this solid foundation that you're building off of.
Yeah, I've screwed up a few times. That's part of the learning experience.
Yeah, that's why I always tell everybody as a developer of any type, and it doesn't matter whether you're writing like automation stuff or you're doing like full on websites or full on software. Do not push to the live system before a weekend ever.
Yeah, everything breaks over weekends, and you're not there to fix it. So it's like, well,
Yeah,
that's 2 days worth of stuff that you can't fix.
yeah, and depending on how large your client base is or whatever the automation was, that could be a huge mess to clean. And
Yeah.
uh,
Like the emails I get or the messages I get on a Monday are, oh, we haven't had any of these come through to this channel over the weekend. We haven't had these responses. Is something wrong with the Zap? Like,
hmm,
no.
yeah, I mean, nothing's been modified, so
I haven't been
probably,
notified of any problems with the Zap, and I get
yeah,
all the email notifications. I don't think so.
yeah, probably not. I've had that too, where something changes, and I'll tell you, this is my experience. 90% of the time is it's either user error or like if it's taking an input file, something a parameter changed. There was a bad character entered into the input file, and it's like, okay, then you just go in, find whatever that was, remove it, run it again. You're good. But
Yeah, it's usually user error,
yeah,
especially with forms. Like, we want you to pick the actual option that you're doing,
yeah,
not this other option, because otherwise it doesn't go to the right person. And then I get those messages going, oh, I haven't received this. And I'm like, well, it's because the person who sent it to you didn't select the right option.
yeah, yeah,
That's why you didn't get it.
yeah. And that's the thing is, it's there's a fine line to walk, right? In with any type of user situation is you want to give them enough choice to where you don't have to do everything for them, but you also need to limit it enough so that their mistakes are not going to break whatever your process is. And that is a very, very odd and often frustrating line to walk.
Yeah.
Well, we're approaching an hour here, so I want to kind of wrap up. But I did want to talk about a little bit more about like what you stream because ultimately, this might be my podcast, but you are my guest here, and one of the things I know that you're a really big fan of is Mass Effect. I see you play Mass Effect. I think Mass Effect and Minecraft are the two games I've seen the most. Is you know when did you become a fan of Mass Effect, and what's your favorite part about the games? Because at this point, what Mass Effect 3 came out, I want to say in like 2000 and what was it like
2012.
2012? Okay, So,
2011, 2012. Yeah, it's been about 10 years now.
yeah, so the franchise has been, it's been out for a while now, but there's still some hardcore. So, what's your favorite part about Mass Effect, and why do you like playing it so much?
Um, so it's an interesting one because when I was living with a housemate when I was living 2 towns that way. Not long after I moved down to Victoria, and I bought an Xbox 360. I got one of the Modern Warfare 2 special edition consoles when it was brand new. And of course, back then, our regular gaming shop, which is EV Games, which I think is the Australian equivalent to GameStop,
Mm-hmm.
um, they do game bundles with consoles, and the game options were Mass Effect 2 and Dragon Age, and we got those two games, and it's like, well, if we're gonna play Mass Effect 2, you've got to get Mass Effect 1.
Yeah.
So I always play everything from the beginning. I cannot play a game
From in the middle.
in the middle of the series. No,
I'm
I can't.
I'm the same way. I'm the same way.
Same with a book or a movie. I have to watch from the beginning to go through to the one I actually want to watch. So we got those and started playing Mass Effect, and it kind of just went from there. And um, when the third one came out, I got it on pre-release with one of the bundles, and then when Andromeda came out, I got that as well on pre-release with the deluxe edition. I got the actual Nomad,
Mm-hmm.
the actual movable Nomad. It's not remote controlled. Everybody thought it was remote controlled, but it's not. But I became a fan probably because of the choice capacity in it. It wasn't a traditional first-person shooter like Call of Duty.
Yeah.
There was a story to it. You could make the choices, and the choices all reflected the eventual outcome. I like choices. I don't like being told you have to go and do this.
Yeah.
I like the option of having the conversation and being able to decide whether or not I want to be the good guy or the bad situation. I liked the fact that I could actually romance people and have it affect the outcome, which is all the same idea around Dragon Age as well.
Yeah.
Which is why I love Dragon Age as well. Can't wait for the fourth one to come out. But it's just all behind that, and each character and each possible squad mate has their own story that you can either help advance or completely ignore. It'll either help or hinder. So the whole choice-based situation is ideal for me because I can sit there and go, do I want to help you? I don't like you as a person. I might let you die on Vermeer.
Yeah.
Sorry, Caden. But you also got those diehard fans that go, but how can you do something like let that person die? It's like,
Yeah. Well, it's a game and it's a character, and
it's my choice.
yeah.
I may not like how the voice actor speaks. I may not like the character art. I may not like the story at all. With Caden, it's just I don't like Raphael's speaking style.
Yeah.
I don't like the fact that Caden was forced on you as a romance option, and everything you said to him was basically taken as I want to sleep with you.
Fair enough. I mean,
And you play him all the way through the trilogy, and he really doesn't change.
yeah. No, he's one of the few characters that doesn't really have like a lot of development.
No.
Yeah, I'm not like the biggest Mass Effect fan, but Rex in particular, like Rex is the character to me that like is a really shining example of like he comes across as one way, but the more time you spend with him, and obviously depending on your choices with him, right, it really does have a major impact on the story, one way or the other.
Oh yeah.
And it's something to me that it just always stood out is that the Rex is one of those characters where like if you lose him in Mass Effect 1, it any further story with his people becomes so much more difficult in the next
Yeah.
two games. And then
Yeah.
even if you have him, it's still challenging. Like it's not a walk in the park.
No, but it's the best of a bad situation in the storylines because you lose Rex, you
Mhm.
lose the next possible chance of having a alliance basically because the next choice is his brother Reeve, and Reeve's a dick.
Yeah, Reeve
Nobody
is
wants anything to do with him.
yeah, Reeve is definitely not a fan.
No,
And
and it's the simple decisions like that that can affect an entire story. You go from this guy who's actually invested to helping his people, and you start to learn that when you get to the second one, he wants to help his people progress. He wants all of them to come together.
yeah,
Reeve wants one clan to be in charge, and that's it.
yeah,
And then if you keep Rex, Reeve dies in the third one.
yeah. And Rex is interesting because like when you first meet him in Mass Effect 1, he's really rough around the edges and he doesn't like Shepard at all. And he's actually one of the easiest I think companions to lose by accident. Um and
Yeah, because if you don't get everything built up before you get to Vermeer, you have no choice.
yeah. So it's he's just he's a prime example of like you said of choice and of how actions have consequences because in a lot of games, you make a choice and okay, cool, it might affect like one small thing, but it doesn't affect the linear story. And even in Mass Effect, like Mass Effect 3, the critique is that, you really, it always comes down to the first three choice, there's three choices at the end. But even so, it's like you had way more choice and way more freedom throughout the games than you did. Like, I wasn't thrilled with the ending of 3, but I also wasn't one of those like people who absolutely like was so upset about it. And I think you probably
Yeah.
fell into that same category, right? Like you weren't upset. Did you enjoy the ending to 3 and the decision they made?
I honestly had no problems with either way they had it. I didn't see the problem. I
Mm-hmm.
appreciated the explanation they added on to the end of what happens to everybody
Yeah,
after,
yeah,
but I honestly didn't see any problem with it. Everybody's opinion is always going to be different, and it's always going to be the minority of people speaking out that's going to ruin something.
yeah, definitely. Um,
They didn't need to change anything. Yes, they clarified it a bit more, which made some people happy, but they didn't need to change it. It wasn't the be all and end all. It didn't really change how the game went. It was literally what 2 minutes at the end of the third one.
yeah, yeah, I think so. It was like a 2 minute like add-on, and I thought it was a great add-on. Like
Yeah,
realistically speaking, I've talked about this before, but I think where a lot of the problem with Mass Effect 3 came from was that there was so many contradictory statements that were being made from the development team about Mass Effect 3. And ultimately, those, after I studied game design, it was like I quickly realized that like there was no realistic way that they could have a different ending for like every choice. So my opinion is that, this is just my take, is that the original ending wasn't enough, but the add on really was like, okay, that's a really good, like, faith move. And I think that was the best thing they could have done, realistically. So,
yeah.
you know,
There was no way they could make everybody happy,
yeah, but I
and
think,
in the end, they needed to tie up a story,
yeah,
and they did it in the best way they possibly could. They left it open to interpretation depending on the option you took,
yeah,
but they finished the story, and that was what they needed to do.
yeah. And, I think, again, it was, well, I wouldn't say it was necessarily the best thing. I think there were some things that could have been handled differently. For what it was, I definitely feel a lot of people really overreacted to that. And that's, I think, where I'll just leave it is you had three really good games and the ending fell a little bit flat, which I know sucks. But when you look at it, it's like, and I think, maybe I'm wrong, but I think part of the reason why people still go back to it is because you can play it so many times and not necessarily have the same run through each time.
Yeah, no, you can literally make one or two different choices, and you can have an entirely different game series.
Yeah.
You could go from being Paragon to Renegade. You could literally walk that line and have it play out that way.
Yeah.
You don't have to play the game the exact same way every single time.
Yeah, and I mean, you're who you decide to romance, who you decide to follow on side quests with, and develop that relationship with. I mean, that all matters, in the long run. And ultimately, yeah, well, it is unfortunate that it does only come down to three decisions. At least they gave you a choice in the end. It's not like they just forced everything into like one hole, right? Like a square peg into a round hole. They gave
Yeah,
you the
they
choice.
try and force it down your throat that this happened, but you don't get a choice in the matter.
Yeah, I have to say my biggest gripe, quite frankly, is that they didn't include the multiplayer in the Master Collection for Mass Effect, because I loved the Mass Effect 3 multiplayer when it was out.
I don't even remember why they chose not to add that in. I read it, but
Yeah,
I think they just wanted to keep the experience to the base game and the DLCs that they could add in, so that it was just play through and
I think
move
so.
on.
I also feel I was probably in the minority of people who enjoyed the multiplayer for Mass Effect 3. I think most people.
Occasionally, but I didn't play it very often.
Yeah, my friends and I, we played it pretty pretty frequently, um, on the back on the PlayStation 3. We actually had like LAN parties with it, so we had a lot of fun with that. So that's my fondest memories of Mass Effect. But with that being said, though, Tech, what do you think is probably like your favorite thing you've done in Mass Effect, or what's your favorite part about Mass Effect?
Mm, that's a hard one. Um, Probably consistently romancing Liara every single time because I can't get around the bromance with Garrus. He's my brother.
Uh huh.
He's my best friend. He is not my boyfriend. I can't do it.
Yeah,
I did it
Garrus.
once just I did it once just to get the storyline and that was it.
Yeah.
No. Liara is my wife. She is always going to be my wife and I am always going to be female shepherd and I don't care what anybody else might say.
Hey, more power to you. And Liara is an incredible character. Funnily enough, that was my romance partner too. So that's something we have in common that I didn't know about.
Always.
but
Always.
but yeah, with that, I guess we should probably wrap up. We're at about an hour and 10 minutes, give or take. But Tech, again, thank you so much for joining me. For everyone watching, you can find Tech Unicorn at twitch.tv/TechUnicorn11. Um, what times do you normally stream, Tech?
So my time Monday to Thursday 6:30 p.m. till 9:30 p.m. So like 3 hours, 3 hours roughly.
Mm-hmm.
And Saturdays it depends on the day, but in a couple of weeks it'll be 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. I don't stream Fridays and Sundays.
And that's Eastern Australian time, right?
Yes.
Okay, I just want to make
Soon to
sure.
be daylight savings time.
Yeah, we're about to switch off daylight savings time in like 2 months, and ugh.
Yep.
But anyway, yeah. Do you have anything else like I don't know. I don't think you have like a Twitter or anything like that, right? No socials to promote.
I do, but I don't use them for streaming.
Okay, so we'll leave it at that again. That is twitch.tv/TechUnicorn11. You can see TechUnicorn11 down right below her. I'm at Shenzo the Lost, and thank you all very much for watching. Tech, again, thank you so much for joining me today and for being my very first not just interview, but my very first international interview.
No worries.
Well, again, I really appreciate it. Again, please go check out and support Tech. Become a unicorn. Become one with the herd. And if you were so obligated, become one of her stalkers. But with that in mind, my name is Shins of the Lost. This has been the Lost One Podcast, episode 13. Thank you very much for watching. Bye bye.